It started with fear. Fear spread by a doctor. Fear of a vaccine given routinely to children, brought willingly by their parents for protection. Tonight, Dispatches reveals what parents were never told. How a major London teaching hospital and Dr. Andrew Wakefield launched a health scare which questioned the safety of the 3-in-1 MMR vaccine.
My opinion is that the MMR should be suspended in favour of the single vaccines.
How they planned a rival vaccine and products that could have made their fortune. And how, when Dr. Wakefield warned that MMR might lead to autism, his own laboratory had carried out tests on children that dramatically contradicted his claims. But when push comes to shove, Dr. Andrew Wakefield is careful what he does and doesn't say.
Dr. Wakefield, I'm sorry to interrupt. Brian Deere, Channel 4 Television. Could I talk to you about your research, sir, and your commercial ambitions? Excuse me.
My name's Brian Deere, and I've spent the last 12 months investigating a health scare that's not really like any other. Health scares, well, they come and they go, but this one's different. This one's changed people's lives. You've got some parents shunning a vaccine against infectious diseases that could kill or disable their children. And then you've got other parents like Damien and Stacey, who I'm going to see now, agonising over the fact that their child became autistic soon after a shot of MMR. Three-year-old Rebecca is autistic. There are an estimated 100,000 children in Britain suffering from the disorder, and they exhibit a wide range of behavioural problems.
I think maybe you have to push that one.
Oh. I remember the first actual book that I got about autism, and I read it, and as I turned each page, I cried because it was like reading a diary about my own daughter.
One sign of Rebecca's autism is her need for repetitive routines, which she never wants her parents, Damien and Stacey, to vary. She insists that her zipper always be in the same position, and she must always follow the same route from her home. Rebecca hardly speaks. Her vocabulary is minimal. And her poor communication combines with her need for routine to produce sporadic outbursts of frustration, even anger, when events aren't exactly as she expects.
What can your daughter be like when she's, if you like, at her worst?
I think the most terrible time is when she headbutted me and the T-shirt was full up of blood. And that's how much she damaged me, and she was actually laughing.
And if she starts acting up, I mean, do other people behave in a strange way towards her or treat her differently, do you think?
Yeah, because sometimes the looks, it's really awful. And I've actually gone home and cried a couple of times. It really gets to me, that.
But at times, Rebecca seems like any other child.
Yeah.
She loves playing in the park and has a big thing for music.
Why would she be doing that now? Why do you think she's behaving unusually?
It's because we stop the music, you know.
Oh, so if we stop the music, she'll get upset?
Sometimes she gets upset,
Okay.
yeah.
Rebecca was routinely vaccinated with the triple measles, mumps and rubella jab, but her parents left it late because of the MMR scare.
Well, there was this whole controversy about it in the news, and it made me a bit apprehensive about actually giving her the MMR in the first place. And I had a little word with my doctor, and my doctor basically reassured me.
But a fortnight later, Rebecca started shrieking, headbutting and acting up.
She was born normal, and then all of a sudden, after 3 years, they're telling you, well, no, your child's not normal anymore, she's got autism. And you're like, what the heck is that?
Her parents were quick to see a connection. She was autistic. They blamed the vaccine.
You can't even imagine the guilt that you feel, because she never asked me, Mum, take me to get vaccinated. I still gave it to her, so I felt incredibly guilty.
Their anxiety was fueled by a theory from doctors proposing a connection between autism and MMR. Those doctors worked at this hospital, the Royal Free in London. Here in the late 90s, Dr. Andrew Wakefield was leading researchers trying to show a possible link between inflammatory bowel disease, autism and MMR.
We are seeking to establish whether there is a genuine causal association between the MMR and this syndrome or not. It is our suspicion that there may well be, but that is far from being a causal association that is proven beyond doubt.
In February 1998, Dr. Wakefield and his team published their findings in a leading medical journal. Described as an early report, the study was tiny, just 12 case histories, and Dr. Wakefield claimed that in 8, parents had blamed MMR.
Despite shortcomings in the paper, the Royal Free launched a media blitz for it that in time would circle the world. It was in a room behind me that they held a press conference, the results of which they surely must have foreseen. Dr. Wakefield, of course, sat in pride of place, but the meeting was also graced by bigger fish. There was Professor Ari Zuckerman, Dean of the Medical School, and also Professor Roy Pounder, who today is Vice President of England's Royal College of Physicians.
To launch a preliminary study with a press conference was a pretty unusual event. But broadcasters were also provided with a well-prepared video news release funded by the medical school. Although the hospital and the medical school consistently stressed the importance of MMR vaccination, the 20-minute video package contained claims which could only undermine the 3-in-1.
And here it is. Now, to help us all out, they've kindly provided us with a really big needle
And a little girl in pain. This is a very slick package for their message.
Where's your packing wall?
Morning.
The family of an autistic boy saying they're sure it was MMR that done it.
To find out that it was caused by a vaccine that you agreed to have done is just devastating.
And Dr. Wakefield expressing his view that MMR should be split into single shots.
Not once, not twice, 4 times.
My opinion is that the risk is related to the combined vaccine, the MMR, suspended in favour of the single vaccines. The single vaccines are likely in this context to be safer. Giving the measles on its own reduces the risk of this particular syndrome developing.
The hospital and the medical school deny that there was any campaign by them to undermine confidence in MMR. But a scare was born.
Claims there could be a link between a common childhood vaccine and autism.
Questions were raised today about the safety of the combined mumps, measles and rubella vaccine.
New research showing a possible link with a bowel disease which could lead to autism.
Although the Royal Free's video package also contained a brief interview urging caution, it was Dr. Wakefield who made the news.
Measles, mumps and rubella given together may be too much for the immune system of some children to handle.
Not surprisingly, this claim also made the press. And it was the call to ban the triple shot that caught attention. At the government's Health Protection Agency, scientists watched the unfolding scare with alarm. Senior epidemiologist Dr. Mary Ramsey was baffled.
Dr. Andrew Wakefield believed that the MMR should be broken up into single vaccines. Can you think of any basis for that?
Absolutely none at all. There's nothing in his work that really suggests where that came from. And it really was a very unfortunate thing to say, because that's the thing that's had the most impact, I think, on the public, who are very confused now about whether there is some problem with combining the vaccine.
So from your point of view, this research and this proposal from the Royal Free Group, and Dr. Wakefield in particular, that the vaccine should be broken up just came out of the blue?
Absolutely.
So why was Dr. Wakefield questioning the triple vaccine? Was there more we should have been told? This is the London Patent Office. In their archives, they keep a copy of every UK patent application filed by inventors who want to protect their commercial interests.
What worried parents didn't know is that 9 months before the press conference and video release, Dr. Wakefield and the Royal Free Medical School had filed the first in what would become a string of patent applications. Now look at this. Even as the MMR scare that they had started gathered pace, they filed documents in Britain, the United States, Canada, Australia and worldwide, claiming to have discovered, firstly, their own allegedly safer vaccine against measles, and secondly, treatments, perhaps even a complete cure for inflammatory bowel disease and autism.
The public was unaware of the patent applications, and many of Dr. Wakefield's colleagues were also in the dark. In 1997, Ian Bruce was Professor of Molecular Biology at Greenwich University and worked closely with Andrew Wakefield and his research team.
Can I ask you what you make of that and what you're seeing on that page there?
Well, it's something that I've never seen before, but I mean, the interpretation of that is quite clear to me, and that is that they have a vaccine for measles, which presumably is an alternative to the existing vaccine.
And then there was this patent application which followed shortly after the press conference at the Royal Free Hospital.
The plans for new products were nothing if not ambitious. Remember, they also described a treatment or even a complete cure for both inflammatory bowel disease and autism.
These sound like big claims to be making.
Yeah, I think it's fair to say that they're fairly enormous claims, if they're valid.
If they'd got these products that they're claiming here, would that be big money? Would it buy you a medical school?
Well, I think that it might very well buy you a medical school. I mean, I think that the market for vaccines, especially globally applied vaccines, are obviously potentially enormous.
And then a treatment for autism?
I think that goes without saying.
Patent applications are public documents, and there's nothing wrong with inventors, or indeed medical schools, protecting their discoveries. But should we have been told that the Royal Free School of Medicine and Dr. Wakefield had these commercial interests?
It's something that should have almost certainly been made public before now. The more that they can highlight the potential danger that would be linked to vaccination with MMR, and the more that they could highlight the benefits of alternative vaccination with their product, then obviously the greater the ability of their product to compete, and the greater chance that it would be economically successful.
We wrote to the medical school asking them about their patent applications. They replied strongly denying any vested interest in attacking MMR. In part 2, letters between senior Royal Free doctors questioning the ethics of Dr. Wakefield's research. We show the medical school's patent applications to experts.
It just doesn't make sense. The whole technique doesn't make sense.
And we meet the American scientist named as the co-inventor.
Do you believe that autism can be cured?
Yes.